Germany, 1945. Cities reduced to ash. Factories silent, railways twisted. A defeated nation divided among its conquerors.
Following the collapse of Nazi Germany, industrial production fell to a fraction of pre-war levels.
Food shortages were widespread. Barter replaced currency. Cigarettes became money. Workers were paid in currency that bought nothing. Economic paralysis threatened political collapse.
For the Western Allies, the question became urgent. Should Germany remain weakened, or should it be rebuilt as a stable partner in Europe?
No one spoke yet of an economic miracle, only survival. No one spoke of anything but survival.
The Reichsmark was worthless. Price controls suppressed supply, encouraged black markets, and discouraged production. Factories existed, but incentives did not. Workers were paid in currency that bought nothing. Economic paralysis threatened political collapse.
Factories existed, but incentives did not. The entire machinery of the economy had simply ground to a halt. Workers were paid in currency that bought nothing. Economic paralysis threatened political collapse and utter ruin.
Should Germany remain weakened, or should it be rebuilt as a stable partner in Europe? The choice was ours.
Economic paralysis threatened political collapse. For the Western Allies, the question became urgent. Time was running out.
Should Germany remain weakened, or should it be rebuilt as a stable partner? The answer was about to change the world.
June 1948, a bold decision was made. The Western zones introduced a new currency to break the cycle of ruin. This policy shift was championed by a visionary reformer who believed in the power of market incentives. A new, stable currency was born, the Deutsche Mark, a symbol of stability. Old, worthless notes were exchanged for the new mark. Savings were reduced, but the foundation for growth was laid. Simultaneously, the heavy lid of price controls was lifted. Market incentives were restored. It was a calculated gamble.
The risks were enormous. Inflation could have spiraled, and public anger could have exploded.
The people waited with bated breath. Instead of collapse, something extraordinary happened in the following days. Within days, store shelves began to fill. Goods hidden for years suddenly reappeared in the bright light of day. Producers now had a reason to sell. Workers now trusted their wages. The black market vanished almost overnight. The psychological effect was powerful. There was direction, there was confidence, there was finally hope for the future. The currency reform did not operate alone. External forces were gathering to support the new mark.
Under the Marshall Plan, the United States provided more than just hope. It provided the fuel for recovery. Financial aid, raw materials, industrial support. The building blocks of a new economy were arriving at every port.
Stable currency, market reform, external capital. This was the trifecta that aid alone could not guarantee. The economic architecture was now functional. The miracle was no longer a hope. It was a machine in motion.
By the 1950s, the engine was roaring. Industrial output surged beyond all expectations. Exports expanded. German engineering was once again reaching every corner of the globe.
Unemployment dropped dramatically. A nation that had been starving was now working, earning, and growing.
West Germany became one of the fastest-growing economies in the world. This phenomenon earned a name that would echo through history: the Wirtschaftswunder, the economic miracle.
Domino 1, Rising Living Standards Act. The economic engine was now translating into real wealth for families and communities alike. Domino 2, Political Stabilization. Prosperity anchored a fragile new democracy, turning uncertainty.
Domino 3,
Integration into Western alliance. Germany was no longer an international outcast, but a respected and essential economic partner.
Domino 4. Entry into NATO economic recovery provided the necessary strength for a new defensive shield during these uncertain times. Economic recovery anchored democracy up, and in turn, democracy anchored the stability of Western Europe for generations to come. The success of West Germany created a sharp contrast. Germany was no longer merely territory. It was the central battlefield of the Cold War.
The divide between capitalist prosperity and socialist planning became visible, not just in policy, but in the daily lives of all its people.
The 1948 currency reform triggered the Berlin blockade, the Soviet Union's direct attempt to pressure the West into absolute submission.
The response, the Berlin airlift, solidified Western commitment. Economic policy had now... West Germany was no longer merely a defeated territory. It was the anchor of the West and the showcase of a new era of prosperity.
Was the miracle inevitable? Some argue that the seeds of success were always there, waiting in the ruins.
German industrial skill had survived the war. The pre-war expertise of its engineers and workers remained intact.
Globally, the post-war boom created an insatiable demand. The world was ready for German exports.
But capacity alone was not enough. Without monetary stabilization and market liberalization,
the critical turning point was not industrial capacity. It was institutional reform. This wasn't just raw capitalism. It was the birth of the social market economy, balancing free market growth with social stability.
Prosperity was no longer reserved for the few. A vast middle class began to emerge, anchored by stable wages and high productivity.
Economic success made political stability possible. West Germany was no longer a threat. It was a defensive pillar for the West.
The success of the West became a magnet. The stark contrast between prosperity and planning was visible to the entire world.
West Germany had become the ultimate showcase. An economic decision had created a political reality that the Soviets could not ignore.
West Berlin became an island in a Red Sea. The blockade was the ultimate test of Western resolve and strength.
The response was the Berlin airlift, a bridge made of wings. It solidified the commitment to the new German democracy.
Germany was no longer merely a defeated territory. It was the central battlefield of two clashing worlds and ideologies.
The miracle became a showcase. An economic decision had created a political magnet that the world could not ignore.
But was this transformation inevitable? Or was it the result of a specific, daring architecture of the modern age?
Some argue the miracle was in the DNA. German industrial skill had survived the fire of war. The pre-war expertise of its engineers and workers remained intact, ready to be unleashed.
Globally, the post-war boom created an insatiable demand. The world was hungry for what Germany could build.
But skill and demand were not enough. Without monetary stabilization, growth would have stalled under the weight of the old system.
The critical turning point was not industrial capacity. It was institutional reform. Policy, not just machines, saved the nation.
Nations can be destroyed by war, but they are rebuilt by policy.
In 1948, amid ruins and uncertainty, West Germany chose currency stability over chaos.
Markets over rationing, confidence over fear. That decision did more than restart an economy. Confidence over fear. Sometimes, the most powerful weapon in global politics is not an army, but currency. That decision reshaped Europe. It proved that policy is the engine of destiny.
In 1948, the world learned a lesson that remains true today. Policy is the foundation of progress.
That decision did more than fix an economy. It proved that sometimes the most powerful weapon in the world is not an army. It is a currency and the courage to believe in it.
The economic decision that saved West Germany. A legacy written in policy.